So I'm going to continue on with Genesis 27. Verse 1. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man." No duh, right? Like he has to tell his son that he's old. Is this more the narrator making up fake dialogue? Think about this. The guy is how old? It's been a couple months. Does it say how old he is now? I don't know. I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to guess he's over 80, okay? And he has to tell his son, "I am now an old man, son." Seriously? Anyway. So more made up dialogue. "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death." Well, he doesn't know the day of his death? He needs to tell his son that too. Because, the rest of us, we had a birthday and a death day. And we all know what it is, but he doesn't. So he's telling his son just to let his son know that he doesn't know the day of his death. Verse 3. "Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat so that I might give you my blessing before I die." He can't do that before then. And I thought he just said he doesn't know when he's going to die, but he's acting like he's going to die in a couple hours. Verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat so that I might give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die.' Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats so I can prepare some tasty food for your father just the way he likes it. And then take it to your father to eat so that he might give you the blessing before he dies." So here they are. They're stealing. They're lying and they're stealing. This is the father of, or one of the heroes of Israel, putting a con out on their old blind dad, taking advantage of their old blind dad and conning him. These are great heroes. I feel like there's more to say, but I don't think there is. Liars and thieves. What did Jesus say? Everyone who came before me was a liar and a thief, or the thief always comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Everyone that always came before me was a thief. Yeah, here they are, thieves. So Jacob and his mom are now going to conspire to screw over his older brother and to deceive their dad, to con him out of his will, to force what they want done over, what his dad wants done. Verse 11, Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him." Yeah, I'd actually be caught tricking him. I would appear to be tricking him. Yeah, you are tricking him, you jerk. I would look like I'm tricking him. You are tricking him. And would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing. So, there it is. He's afraid of being cursed, so he has to be real careful to not be caught in deceiving and tricking and stealing from his dad. Wow. Remember, these are the guys that are the big names in heaven, supposedly, according to Old Testament lovers. The heroes of the Old Testament, right here. Lying and stealing from their blind old dad. It's about as petty as it gets, really. Verse 13, his mom said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." So she's like, yeah, curses don't mean anything. No, that's real. Just do what I say. See, she has control over Jacob. He's a mama's boy. Esau isn't. Jacob, she can control. Esau, he can't. This is why Jacob is chosen by her mother to be his little puppet. She wants him to get the stuff because then she gets the stuff. She controls him. So this is really petty. So he's also a simp and a mama's boy, this hero of the Old Testament. He's a liar, he's a thief, and he's a simp. Verse 14. So he went and got them and brought them to his mom, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son. I gotta pause real quick. This is her own son, too, that she's looking to screw over so badly. This is a low-down mom right here. Anyway, let me continue. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her oldest son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. Verse 18. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I'm Esau, your firstborn." Okay, I need to pause. He can't tell the difference of their voices? Are their voices that alike? Is he that negligent of a dad that he doesn't even know what his own sons sound like? That's crazy. Anyway, continuing on. Verse 19. Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn." Like he needs to know that, "I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you might give me your blessing. I have worked for your reward." Here it is. I need to make a note of this too. Here is more work for your salvation, work for your blessing, work for your place in heaven. I just went out and killed some animal and cooked it up the way you like it. So now you can bless me. I sacrificed an innocent animal so that now you can give me good things. Money. The God of these people is money. Blessings. This is where it all came from. Where did financial blessings come from? The Old Testament, where blessing only really meant was money. They love money more than anything. They're creatures of this world, and they're going straight to hell. They belong to this world, and they won't ever leave this world. Verse 20, Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" You gotta wonder how long he waited, like 10 minutes. He wanted to get this blessing fast, right? So you gotta wonder literally how fast. Anyway, continuing on. The Lord God gave me success, he replied. Wow. The Lord made him kill that animal faster so he could get his money. You like this? So now he's implying, he's dragging God in on this lie. God had nothing to do with any of this. This was his willingness to lie and steal. God had nothing to do with this, but now he's saying the Lord God. So he's using God's name in vain, by the way, and he's slandering God and calling God a thief and a deceiver right here by implying that God is cool with this whole plan, that the Lord God gave me success. So that's a lie. God did not do anything about that, and he's implying that God helped him in this. Wow. Blasphemy right here from Jacob, one of the heroes of the Old Testament. Verse 21, Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." Wow. Because he can't tell his voice from Jacob, so now he has to. Verse 22. Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob. Okay, so there we go. But the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. So he does know it's Jacob's voice. Wow, okay. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Wow. So you know what's really going on here is they're really showing how much Jacob is willing to lie. I mean, his dad pretty much just said, "Please raise your right hand and swear and swear an oath and yada yada. Put your hand on the Bible and swear. Do you do yada? And he's like, oh yes. He's just lying and lying, and they just keep escalating it. Are you really him? Yes, I'm really him. Like just lie after lie. Verse 20. And what did Jesus say? Don't swear on anything. Just let your yes mean yes and your no mean no, and anything beyond that comes from the evil one. Well, here they are, lying, lying, lying. Father of lies. This whole family comes from the father of lies. Abraham was always lying and grifting and stealing, and so here his descendants are doing the same thing. The father of lies was Abraham and his God. That's who the father of lies is. This whole nonsense Old Testament came from them. Their culture, their people, they love money more than anything. All they do is lie, steal, and cheat, destroy, murder. It's their MO. That's their God's MO. Even according to their own stories too, they didn't even change these stories to like make their God look like a good guy. They didn't even try. They're just right out in the open and saying, "Look how terrible our God is, but hey, he's the true God. You better worship him or you're going to hell." Verse 25. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I might give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." This is getting weird. All right. Verse 27. So he went to kiss him, and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's riches." There it is. Earth's riches. "An abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you." Slavery. Hey, slavery right here. Verse 29. May nations too, not just like a couple nations, serve you and people bow down to you. You wonder, okay, pause on this. The whole Zionism, the whole Jewish people thinking they're superior to everyone else, the Goyim as they call us, and we're all meant to be slaves, cattle. We work for them. This is where it comes from, is these jerks right here. These evil, lying, stealing, God-hating, truth-hating jerks. Right here. This family of evil, rotten people. Verse 29, may nations serve you and the peoples bow down to you. This right here is Jewish supremacy. This is the root of it right here. All they got to do is go to verse 29 and say, see, right there, our God said, you are our servants, you will bow down to us. But Jesus said that we are all brothers. You're not to call anybody master. You're not to call anybody father, like they called Father Abraham all the time. He says, you only have one Father, the Father in heaven. Verse 29, may nations serve you and people bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. And may those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Wow. So basically, there's just a lot to say about this. Part of me wants to pause and talk about this whole whoever curses you will be cursed and whoever blesses you will be blessed. One of the craziest things I've noticed, I am going to pause to talk about this because this is where some of the insanity goes on today. Okay, so modern Christians living in America who are very ignorant of like where the Bible is, where it comes from, Judaism, the history of Christianity, they don't know about any of this. Nothing. They think that because of verses like this, that if they bless the Jewish people, that they will be blessed. That if they give money, weapons, like to Israel, we have given a lot of welfare, a lot of money and weapons to Israel. Everything that Israel is, modern day Israel, is because the United States gave them. They didn't make it on their own. They didn't earn it, build it, invent it. It was given to them by Americans who, well, there's two parts to it. The people who own, like the Federal Reserve, the Rothschilds, for example, they are a Jewish family. The people who own the media, the people who own the banking system, all this stuff in the West is owned by rich Jewish families. Hitler wasn't wrong. Okay? He was right. He could see who was running everything behind the scenes. Now, that's not a justification to kill everybody of a certain type, but it's a perfect justification to find all these wealthy families and hunt them down. Absolutely. I think that's what he probably should have done. And I think maybe because he was... Anyway, I don't want to start speculating. But a lot of Americans, Christians, they think that by blessing Israel, they will be blessed because of a verse like this. Now, here's the insanity of it. The Jewish people hated Jesus. They murdered Jesus. They don't want anything to do with Jesus. They turned their back on Jesus a long time ago. Christianity was actually a very small group of people in their time that was never accepted amongst mainstream Jewish culture. Otherwise, we wouldn't call them Jews. We would call them Christians. Okay, it was Christianity spread actually amongst the Gentiles. But Jewish people hate Christians. They hate Christians. They hate Jesus. They want nothing to do with Jesus or Jesus is God. Nothing. They hate him. They'd murder him again if they wanted to. But there are idiots in America that think that if we give money to these hateful people, that somehow their God is going to bless them. Now, the strange, weird irony is, their God is the devil. The God of the Jewish people is the devil. He is the God of this world, as Jesus described. He does have control over the nations. He can give wealth to whoever he wants. And so, in a sense, this is actually a true statement when it says, and those who bless you will be blessed, like with money. Look at America, for example. We've been giving Israel all kinds of money and weapons for a long time. Cursed by God, but blessed by the devil. I don't know if cursed by God is really an accurate statement. God doesn't even need to curse anybody. I didn't mean to say that. That sounds kind of petty. I'm just trying to use the words that they use in this little couple lines here to... I'm trying to use the same language. But a lot of American Christians specifically, but I guess Christians around the world, but mostly American Christians, they think that by giving money and weapons to the people who hate them and hate Jesus and hate Christianity and would eliminate Christianity from the world if they had the ability to do so, they would. They think that by giving money to them that somehow they're doing God's work. They're crazy. They are so crazy. Verse 30. After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. Oh, this is awkward. Especially when he's got all the goat skin or whatever on him to pretend like he's Esau. Verse 31, he too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father, and he said to him, "Please, father, my father, please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." His father Isaac asked, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am your son, your firstborn Esau." Verse 33, Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came in, and I blessed him. And indeed, he will be blessed." Wow. So like, there's no take backs. Man, once that blessing goes out, it is permanent. You cannot take that back. That is how permanent it is. Verse 34, when Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." Verse 35, but he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." This is sad, really. Verse 36, Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing." This is pretty sad. I need to pause. This is pretty sad. Jacob has been nothing but a con man, a deceiver, and a thief. Yet he's a hero. Then and they'll always say that God hated Esau and that Esau was the bad guy. I haven't seen anything up to this point that would give me any reason to think that Esau is the bad guy. I do see that Jacob and his mom are definitely the villains in the story, yet they're supposedly the big heroes in quotes, heaven. Yeah, more like hell. Continuing on, verse 36, Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Reserve blessings. I'm sorry, I just thought about it. Like a backup blessing, like a backup bank account, a reserved blessings. Anyway, verse 37. Isaac answered Esau, "I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So, what can I possibly do for you, my son?" Just undo all that and redo it with the right person. This is ridiculous. How can I undo it? You just go to whoever it was you told to make this happen and say, "Whoops, my bad. I'm blind, so I messed up. Mistook one son for the other." Or you could just split it between the sons. That could also be the nice thing to do. Verse 38, Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. Wow. Verse 39, his father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." Wow. So Esau is the victim in this story. And Isaac basically curses him when he says, "You will live by the sword and you will serve your brother." Growing restless. Your dwelling will be away from earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. So Esau is the victim, and now this, in quotes, righteous, and I say that sarcastically, this righteous man is now blessing Esau by cursing him when Esau was robbed. Esau was the victim. Wow. Verse 41, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. Yeah, because he stole it, you jerks. He said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." Okay, I want to pause on this. I'm not saying that killing Jacob is the right thing to do, but I understand why Esau would feel this way. I think any human being would. They could understand that Jacob stole everything from him. Jacob used lies to steal. They didn't even leave him a dime. All Esau got was his dad's curse, even though Esau was the victim of all this. I'm not saying that justifies killing anybody, for things. But I understand this. And I also need to point out that it is the, kind of like Cain and Abel, it is the father who has manipulated the situation to make his sons fight for his love, fight for his blessing, work for it, fight for it, struggle for it, lie for it, murder for it, do evil for it. He couldn't have just split it 50-50 or 70-30. No, all or nothing, and he gave it to the deceiver. He gave it to the wrong child, the deceiver. And I personally would have just sent Jacob away to prison for life. He could work it off for the rest of his life. To me, Jacob is a piece of crap. There's nothing redeemable about him I've seen up to this point, even though it's been a couple months since I read, from previous chapters. From what I remember, there's nothing redeemable about this character. And I would have sent him to prison for a long time, and he could do some hard labor. You don't got to kill him. That's probably too nice. Esau wants to kill Jacob. That's how angry he is at his brother Jacob. Now, this is the part where all the self-righteous jerks want to act like Esau is the bad guy now because he's angry because he was mistreated. I wish these people who are so stupid could be the victims of losing everything they had, or maybe their wife or daughter was raped or something, to where the anger becomes so great you could kill somebody over it. Okay? That's actually, I think, a natural. I'm not saying it's right, but it is the natural reaction. So all these self-righteous know-it-alls who want to say that Esau is the bad guy from wanting to kill his brother Jacob, I wish they could be in his shoes. I wish they could lose some immense, just something immense that you can't ever get back, and to lose all of it because some guy was a con man and he lied and he stole it. I want to see if their self-righteous uh, morals won't cave just like Esau's did. They don't just want to kill him; they would kill him. And so I need to make a statement of that. These people that they think that Esau is the bad guy because he wanted to kill Jacob. Well, who put him in that situation in the first place? Their dad, Isaac, by making his children fight for his love. Once again, this is an Old Testament thing since Cain and Abel. Work for your salvation, work for your love, work for your parents' love, fight against your siblings to get the blessing of your parent, because your parent is so limited in resources, he can only give blessing to one. He can't give it to both. This whole thing is the same story being regurgitated in different ways. Work for your salvation, fight against your siblings to get a better place than your sibling. It's evil. Just evil. Verse 42. When Rebekah was told what her older son Esau had said, he sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides." Verse 45. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Wow, this mom is a crappy mom. All she can think about is herself, and why should I lose both of you in one day? Why does she even care about Esau? She royally screwed him over. Why does she even care about both? Why didn't she just say, I couldn't bear to lose you? Why didn't she just say that? Verse 46. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of his land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. Oh, let me play my violin. My little tiny violin. I'm going to start to play it for her now. Life is so hard. She just can't handle the kind of women that might marry her little baby boy's Jacob that she taught to be such a great deceiver. She just doesn't like the women out here. I can't stand these people. I can't stand this family. There's nothing good about him. The only good guy in this story is Esau. And he's labeled as the bad guy by the morally absent idiots. He's literally the good guy in this story, and yet, for whatever reason, this evil culture that it came out of Judaism, they think he's the bad guy. And if I remember how the story goes, right, he shows forgiveness too. Yet he's still the bad guy, and yet the God of the Jews hate Esau. You know, yet they love Jacob. Isn't that amazing how they're backwards in like every way? Verse 28. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. He already did that. Then he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Paddan Aram. That's not how you say it, but that's how you should because it rhymes. Paddan Aram. Anyway, to the house of your mother's father Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. Your mom's brother. So your uncle? Hold on. Take a wife for yourself there from among the daughters of take a cousin as a wife. From your mom's brother. That is an uncle. And an uncle's children is a cousin. So here we have Isaac telling Jacob to go commit incest and to marry his cousin. Remember, these are the heroes of the Old Testament who are supposedly in heaven according to Jewish culture. To the culture of thieves and liars and destroyers. Verse 3, may God all. I hate the fact that they can even say the word God. I'm really glad that they finally came up with the whole they're not allowed to say the word God, because they're the wrong people to use the word God. I cannot stand the fact, because every time they say this, I know they're talking about the devil, and I hate listening to them say, may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you became a community of peoples. And what kind of a peoples? A rotten, terrible, stiff-necked people. That's who. Verse 4, may he give you and your descendants the blessings given to Abraham. You mean the ones that he always stole by lying? So that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner. Whether there's people there or not, time to kick them off, right? Kill them. The land, in quotes, God gave to Abraham. You gotta love how in the Old Testament, how the character of God is like a landlord. And he's just like allowing people to stay in different places, and he's got a lot of different, he's a landlord who needs rent, needs your money. He says, well, you can go here and you can go there. And this is now your room. This is now your land. So just kick the old people out because I don't like them. It's just crazy how God has been reduced to a landlord in the Old Testament. A unlimited God dealing with limited resources and limited space. So like when he tells the Israelites to kill all the people on the land for their land, like he couldn't have just come up with a solution that didn't involve the murder or genocide of a people. He couldn't have just said, there's this empty spot over here, it's pretty nice, and then go there. I mean, this was thousands of years ago. There was plenty of space all around the world for all kinds of people. It had to be where someone else was already living, of course. Couldn't have just been somewhere else where nobody was living. Because God of the Old Testament loves murder and loves making people fight for his love and brutality. He loves it. So that's why he would tell them to go and take the land of people that he doesn't like. Which is crazy because according to the Bible, he shouldn't like anybody. And even though they were made after his image. Anyway, I'm going to start to ramble on this. Verse 3, may the devil bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a communities of people. Verse 4, may he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham. Verse 5, then Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Padan Aram. He went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, his uncle, who was the mother of Jacob and Esau. Now Esau learned that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to take a wife from there, and that when he blessed him, he commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. And Jacob had obeyed his father and mother and gone to Padan Aram. Esau then realized how displeasing the Canaanite women were to his father Isaac. So he went to Ishmael and married Mahlah, the sister of Nebaioth, the daughter of Ishmael, son of Abraham, in addition to the wives he already had. I guess that sounded like he married a Canaanite woman just to piss his dad off. It doesn't say that she's a Canaanite woman, but the way they set it up, it kind of implies that that's what she is. I don't know. It doesn't say. Anyway, verse 10, Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep, sleeping like a Klingon on a hard bed with a rock for a pillow. Verse 12, he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and God of Isaac, and yada yada, and all the other devils. I will give you and your descendants the land which you are lying. Yeah, they got that lying. Not laying, but lying. He got that one right. Your descendants will be like the dust on the earth. See, that's scary to me. That is really scary to me. And ashes to ashes, dust to dust, is the first thing that comes to mind. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. That's right. They never leave this world. They belong to this world, and they'll never know anything beyond it, because these are not the kind of people in heaven. These are very unclean spirits, whose God is the devil. But the devil is right now telling him that their descendants will be like dust of the earth. A whole world full of people like Jacob and his mom stealing and tricking and deceiving. Incest. No honor. No standards. No nothing. No truth. Can you imagine a whole world of these people? Yeah, it's pretty much the world we're living in right now. I'm reminded of, I can't remember what verse it is. I think it's another Old Testament prophecy where it talks about how in the end times, deceit will prosper. Well, I mean, it's always prospered, though. I said that's kind of silly. It's always prospered. But the idea was that they create a world where deceit prospers, where everything is upside down. And that's pretty much where we're at. If you're honest, you get punished in this world. If you're a liar, you don't get punished. You, in quotes, get rewarded. Like, take unemployment, for example. I know I'm sidetracking. I'm just making an example here. They have so many questions to try to disqualify you from getting unemployment. And I answered everything honestly, even the part where it said about looking for full-time work. Well, I said, well, my last job was part-time and I don't need to work full-time anymore, so I would prefer part-time work. Well, they disqualified me because I said I would prefer part-time work. What business is it of theirs? I don't need to work full-time, and the money I worked in the last job was part-time, so the money that went to them, unemployment, was paid through a job that I was working part-time. And I was laid off at no fault of my own. I was told I was supposed to get unemployment. But because they ask all these questions, because they have all these stupid rules to try to disqualify anybody who's honest. Now, I had to fight that for like a year and a half. I finally got it. But it sent me into a year and a half of no income and all that, just because I simply said that I would prefer another part-time job, because my last one was part-time. I only need to work part-time. And so they disqualified me. And I felt very much punished because I told the truth. To the point where I really was angry with myself. But that was an example to me of how this world is set up, to where if you are honest, you will be punished. Everything is set up in this system to where if you are honest, you will be punished, your life will be harder. And if you lie, you will prosper. And the more you lie, the more you will prosper. It's just the way this world has been set up. It's been set up by the devil. These people right here, whose descendants will be like the dust of the earth. Yeah, these people. They've made deceit prosper. Anyway, continuing on. And you will spread out to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. All peoples on the earth will be blessed. Oh, I don't know about that word blessed. Will be blessed through you and your offspring. Verse 15. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Wow, meaning he will leave, just only after he's done what he's promised. So didn't he already bring him back? So he's gone now, right? He left. He I don't want to get it. This is just nonsense. Okay, what the devil promises his children, I don't care. And verse 16, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the devil is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of the devil. This is the gate of hell. Yes, I did change the words to be accurate. I replaced the word God with the word devil and the word heaven with the word hell. And all of a sudden, the whole thing makes sense. Middle East is just nothing but hell. I mean, it's an awful part of the world. Barren, desolate, constant murder and grief. Definitely not what the kingdom of heaven would look like. Verse 18. Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone. What was I saying? Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called the place Bethel, and the city though the city used to be called Luz. That sounds like an orc name, Luz. Verse 20. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey, I will make, or journey I'm making, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's home. Then the Lord will be my God. So he just put a conditional love on God. God has to pay him things before he will say that he's his God. Let me read this again so you can see how conditional and materialistic and transactional this relationship is between Jacob and his God, which it's the devil. His God is the devil, but even with the devil, it's a very not transitory, transactional relationship. Jacob says, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I'm taking and will give me food and to eat and clothes to wear. Not even just food, clothes too. Come on, man. Like the clothes he already has, more clothes. So if God doesn't give him food or clothes, it has to be all these, not just some. If God messes up on even one of these things, he will not call the Lord his God. So God has to do all these things for him in order to meet the approval of Jacob so that Jacob will call him the Lord his God. Do you see how pathetic this is? Christians should know that this is really bad, what he's doing right here. And what did Jesus say? Do not test the Lord your God. Jesus told us to not test the Lord your God. I mean, I know Moses pretty much started that, but right here we have Jacob testing his, in quotes, God, saying that here's a whole list of everything that God has to do, and then if he does this, then I will call him my God. Let me finish this up, and then I'm going to continue on the thought process here. And this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. That's a pretty crabby house. A little rock. And of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. Oh, this is where it started. So Jacob decides he's going to pay a tithe to God for everything that God gives him. So now everyone else has to do it too. Because Jacob decided, hey, if God gives me all these things, then I will call him God. And then I'll also give him a tenth. Where does it go? I guess he'll just be burning it up into ashes into the sky. I'm just thinking when it turns into money, though, where does that money go? You know, when he says, I'll give you a tenth. Is he just burning the money up? So, back to what I was talking about, since this chapter is now over, thankfully. This is a very ugly part of the Bible right here. Okay. First of all, this should also reveal that how ignorant Jacob is about God. He does not know right from wrong, good from evil, nothing. He never wants to also see, up to this point anyway, that there's, I don't think ever, that he feels any regret for what he did to his brother Esau. No remorse for how he wronged him. Nothing. Like I said, this Jacob character, he's just a liar and a thief. Feels no remorse for anything, how he treats other people wrong. Has no idea who God is. Could be easily tricked into thinking that the devil is his God. Has a I just used the word earlier, a transactional relationship with God. If God does this for me, then I will do that. It has very conditional love as well. The right way of thinking is that God is the creator, God is good, as Jesus said, and that God's character does not change regardless of your circumstances in life, because Jesus said that the rain falls on the righteous and the wicked. Jesus basically taught that God does not make good or bad things happen to people because of what they did. Okay? That's the I think the root from when Jesus made that example when he talked about the temple that collapsed in their time. And he said, "Do you think that that temple collapsed on those people because they were sinners?" And he's like, "No, that's not why." And he said, "The rain falls on everybody." And so he was giving people a more accurate view of the world about how God does not tinker. He does not control things. He's not the landlord. Now, the devil is the landlord. Jesus did refer to Satan as the god of this world, who has the kingdoms in his hands, who can give wealth to whoever he wants, can give land to whoever he wants. He's the landlord of this world. That's what Jesus describes the devil. And that is literally who Jacob is dealing with right here. Financial blessings, material wealth, land. And Jacob says, if he does all these things, if he hits everything on my checklist, like God was his personal butler, his genie in the lamp. If God does all these things for me, then I'll call him my God. So if God is worthy of me, is what Jacob is saying. So Jacob sees himself on the same level or greater than God, because he's literally telling God what God has to do for Jacob to call him his God. The entitlement here is off the scale. The evil and the absurdity, also very high. This is one of the heroes of the Old Testament. So when you hear verses in the New Testament talking about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in heaven, let me tell you, that's lies. Some character during the history of the Bible liked to inject that stuff because they tried and they succeeded, I hate to say this, at making Christianity just Judaism 2.0. Everything Jesus talks about is speaking against the God of the Old Testament and the patriarchs of the Old Testament. Everything. And why do you think the Jews wanted to kill him so badly? He wasn't going around calling himself God. That's not why. It's because when he was talking, they knew he was talking about them, their ancestors, and their God. The children of the father of lies. Who's the only person in the Old Testament they always call father? Father Abraham. So when he says don't call anybody father, he's literally saying stop calling Abraham your father. He says you only have one father, your Father in heaven. Everything Jesus talked about was against the God of the Old Testament. Unfortunately, a lot of the Jewish people who surrounded Jesus thought that Jesus was somehow just pushing Judaism. They didn't get it. Jesus told them himself when he says, "There's so much I wish I could tell you, but you can't handle it right now." If Jesus was he was a very lonely person, because if he was completely honest, none of his disciples would have stuck with him. They would have it would have never, if they knew he was actually talking about the God of the Old Testament is the devil, if they knew that he was actually talking against Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and these characters, they would not be on board, because it goes against their religion, their culture. They'd be excommunicated from their society. They would think that they're going to their version of Jewish hell. What did Jesus say about rich men in heaven? That there are no rich men in heaven. How hard it is for a rich man to enter heaven. He has to shrink down to a tiny little hole, eye of a needle, like a camel trying to shrink through a hole that small, because he won't give away his wealth. He loves his money more than anything. And that's why he said the poor are blessed and the rich are cursed. Woe to you who've had your comfort now. It's the only comfort you're ever going to get. He said the poor were blessed and the rich were cursed. Well, the patriarchs of the Old Testament were rich. And they loved money more than anything. Look at Jacob. Does Jacob have the thoughts of his people, his nation, his culture, and their righteousness on his mind? No. All he cares about is me, 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 my food, my clothes, my inheritance, my money, my land, me, 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 me. That's Jacob. Well, he found his God, the devil, who would serve those cravings. The devil kind of reminds me of like a credit card company. They seem very happy to get you on the line, to lend you money so you can have all the things you want. And you're not thinking about what's the catch. What happens? You become a slave. They own you now. You're making payments now, and they're getting more than what they gave to you back. Devil's always reminded me of credit card companies and that sort of thing. They know what they're doing. They're not dumb. That's how they make their money. Satan's no different. That's what he does with people. But all these young people, all they see is what they can get right now. Instant gratification, what's right in front of them. They're not thinking about what are the consequences down the road. They're not thinking about eternity. They're not thinking about heaven. They don't even think heaven is real. So they're not thinking about anything like that. All they're thinking about is what they can get now, instant gratification. And the devil profits off of these fools. So I'm going to end this video here and continue the next one, but I want to stop this recording. We're going to go to chapter 29 for the next one.